Yo, what's up guys? I'm going to be making a tier list for all the shells. I will be classifying from the role of the animus that they will be equipped on. So I'm not necessarily saying like, okay, this is a shell just for a healer. But sometimes it is a little bit difficult because some shells work very good on one unit, not as good on other units. So kind of try to mention all of the shells as well. So for that reason, we just kind of go from there. Also, in this case, we're not necessarily saying like healer or like from top to bottom is better than anything else. That's not the case. But from right to left is the order of what's better than one another. Because I could say it's like, oh, the supernova is a triple S tier, but then you still don't really know where to place it. And that is kind of the thing. I can already give you a spoiler. Codex of Magic is all the way at the top. But let's just go through all of the units or all of the shells. I will also click on all of the shells and then pretty much explain a little bit where you get them on and where you put them on. First of all, we have the Phantom Cat. It's just a simple damage dealer, and you put them on any damage dealer you have. It's really not that special to it. Wait, not that one. This one I have to click on. Yep. So it's just follow up the main thing with like a little bit of damage. There's a whole bunch of shells that do a little bit of follow-up damage. Then we have this one, which is one of those AoE healer things. It just gets like, it's your main one for AoE healing early on, but it's also the weaker one. Nothing too special, heals a little bit. Red Comet is also more damage, and it gives more attack. Would I say that Red Comet is better than the Phantom Cat? I would honestly say early on in game, I would say that I like Phantom Cat more than I like Red Comet. But that is for me. Yeah, left to right, but I have to do... I've in reverse. This is my left, that is my right. But yeah, the ones that are on the left are better, the ones on the right are worse. That's the main thing. Then we go into the next row already. So this is also where I will explain a little bit about like buffers, debuffers, and that kind of stuff. So let's move on to the next one, which is going to be Star, which I think, in my opinion, is one of the better shells out there. Because it's just a cooldown reduction for the skill that you're using right after, plus you get extra turn meter the moment that you use your thing. Insanely good on Marvels, insanely good on... Well, Lily mostly gets like off turns where she doesn't have this skill at the moment she uses it. But good on like a Marvel, good on a Kraken, good on like a whole bunch of things, which just make the cooldown of the unit -1. So mostly ends up at buffers or debuffers. You could place it maybe on a healer as well, but most of the buffers, debuffers really do like to use a shell. But as mentioned, it's one of those things you could maybe use on a healer as well that has cooldown. So let's say you use it on a Mia, definitely fine over there too. Next one is the Maiden Princess, which is the cleanser. And that's somewhat of a weaker cleanser, but most of the time it's either for healers that you want your healer to cleanse before it takes a turn and then it can do the shits. Or you want that on your buffer debuffer as well. So in this case, I'm actually going to place that on the side of the healer because it's more common for healers that you want to have them get a cleanse at the start of that turn, because then they can start cleansing other characters as well. That's the main thing that you want to do with this. You cleanse, so you cleanse others. So I'm going to put her at the healer one. Not that this is helping you to heal, but it's mostly on the role of the healer of the Animus itself. Going into the next, that is got to be a Reason. Reason is the heal, which is one of those where you have a few iterations off. It's just a stronger heal, and if you heal something that is less than a certain HP, you also get a heal over time. I would say it's one of the better ones you get early on. Personally, I think early on it's definitely better than Reason as well, so let's also place it in that order. Then the next one we have is going to be the Panda. Panda is going to be the one that is definitely good for longer prolonged fights on your damage dealer, because it stacks up the crit damage. So if you have a longer fight, it's definitely a good one. If your fight is over in like 1 or 2 turns, it's not as crazy good. But it's definitely one of those DPS ones, and I would say definitely better than the other two right there. But then it gets more difficult because we add more DPS kind of things in. The White Gale. White Gale is, that is an interesting one. That's actually the downgrade version of the Black Moon that you get later. It's more of a damagey-ish one. I would say you mostly place this actually on a damage dealer rather than, or on a buffer or debuffer, rather than a damage dealer because of the accuracy gain that you get. But in this case, it's kind of a weak one, so I would say it's for a buffer or debuffer, and that can then add a little bit of damage as well. But it's definitely weaker than Star. I don't really like this one that much. At least not the lowest version. Later versions are pretty decent. Then we have this one, which is the Doji, which gives extra attack and extra crit rate. That one is really nice early game. I think that's for DPSers, probably the best one early game, because early game there's a lot of fights you pretty much finish in one hit, so it's definitely one of those nice ones that just enables you to finish a fight in one hit right away, which is pretty nice. Then we have the Silence, which is the attack bar gain after a turn. Is pretty strong for buffers and debuffers. Could arguably also give that to a healer. It is not bad on the Sanya or something, but I would definitely say a star with cooldown reduction is a lot better. Then we go next one, which is the Hoothoot. Teacher Owl, that's just increasing your healing result by 200 this turn, or 2000 this turn. Is definitely one of those healer ones. I would say that I like Reason more than I like the Hoothoot. Just because it gives a little bit more healing power than just a flat healing of 2000 extra. But in both cases, could be used for your healer right there. And then we have the Agent Lizard, which is damage taken, increase their... Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much just a downgraded version of the White Fang. So that's your DPSer one. Personally, I still think in the early game I would place it on second. I think that the Doji is better, but they're kind of equal level to me. I would say that both of these are probably better than the Panda over here, but they're somewhat equal level in my opinion. Then we go to the Epics. Epics, we start off with the Electric Squads, which is the upgraded version of the healing that you also have with Reason, I think. Yeah, it's this one. So it's upgraded version of Reason. So we're gonna place all of those over here. Thing is, if I place something all the way on the left, it doesn't really fit. So I have to drag everything all the time. So that's in case you're asking, like, what the hell am I doing? Then we have Diamond Heart. And Diamond Heart is actually very unique, where it's only for Rahul/Mizuki. That's just pretty much just the thing it is. It's really darn good on Rahul, because Rahul is a really strong defense scaler. You put a lot of defense to him. He has a defense buff. And then the shield you get from this is absolutely freaking busted. It's really insane. You're missing Alicorn. Is Alicorn... Am I not having Alicorn? I have Alicorn. So yeah, that's the one on Rahul, which is just... It's pretty much just for them. I'm not even sure if she would actually use that, but Rahul is definitely using this. But some other people are mentioning she's also defense scaling, which is the new unit. So yeah, it's definitely this one that you don't want to put on Rahul, which kind of has its own tier for defense scalers in the first place. Moving on, next we have the Crossroads. And Crossroad is an attack buff and then Life Leech. I tried the upgraded version on Messiah in the last tournament in the beta that I played. I was not impressed. I actually felt like it was kind of weak. Sure, it's better than all of those that you see here on the screen thus far, but it's definitely one of the weaker ones for the damage, because the next one is going to be the Twilight Knight. And Twilight Knight is incredibly strong because of this defense break. Even if the shell is lower by stats than another shell, for example, this defense break will even be incredibly good. The next best thing that you probably get anytime soon after this is going to be the White Fang. But I did actually notice by a few runs, by certain things, Twilight Knight might outdamage your White Fang on your damage dealer for a decent bit until you get like the higher passive effects of like higher crit rate, higher crit damage, higher attack on the White Fang, because those can scale higher. But if you have a good Twilight Fang, definitely you can keep Twilight Fang for a very long time. So yeah, that one actually that worked. I should try it again to put those to the left. But Twilight Fang is really good. And I think Twilight Fang, in my opinion, is probably better than some of the other damage dealers for the Mythics that are coming later. Moving on next, we have the Shanghai Jing, which is the under version of Gigabyte. I would say I don't like this one as much. I would rather keep Star than I keep Shanghai Jing. Also because Shanghai Jing comes at a point where one stage later you already get the upgraded version of it. Twilight Fang. Did I call it Twilight Fang? Twilight Knight. Sorry. I combined the two. But yeah, I would say Shanghai Jing is also for buffers, debuffers, but I kind of like Reason, or I like Star a little bit more. Moving on next. Black Flag, also a really strong one, also on buffers, debuffers, and I would say Black Flag is better than Star. However, if you already have a speed buff provider such as a Miho or a Lily, then I would say that Star is better than Black Flag. But in most cases, it will be that you don't have those, and then Black Flag is definitely better. Really good on like Marvels and all of those kind of things. The final one for this is Blizzard, which is the random cooldown. Is also good for buffers, debuffers in most cases. The only thing is that I'm not really sure is this resets. Maybe someone in the chat can explain. If this is resetting your cooldown with a 60% chance of a random skill, why would I use that over a guaranteed cooldown on the skill that you just used? Except that this is a 4-turn and this is a 3-turn, but this is by chance. Why would I use this over this? Or am I missing something? Like, the question comes the same thing for Halloween later, but maybe someone in chat can give me the explanation of why that would be better. Sure, you can get better stats to it because it's higher grade. Yeah, it feels worse than Stars. Either I'm missing something or it feels worse than Star, except that you get more base speed. Like, you get more base speed, but it does feel worse than Star. Like, that's the weird thing about it. But Kupugi, like, if you make Star the base stats of a Mythic, I would be using Star altogether for, like, late game, like, legit. But yeah, sure, let's continue on. Wait, did I place it already? Yeah, I placed Blizzard over here. Is worse than Star in my opinion, like, just simple like that. Then we go into a bunch of shells that are all Mythic, and some of those I haven't really fully tested myself. It seems to be that the number is dynamic, on one can be higher, maybe it's on reset multiple skills. Yeah, maybe it could reset 2 skills. I'm not really sure about that. I'm not really sure about that. Yeah, it's 1 less CD and better stats, like, that's the main thing. But yeah, we're going into a bunch of Mythic shells, which I didn't all test myself altogether. So some of those are more of like a gamble of how good I think they are, rather than actually knowing how good they are. So the Fortissimo, or whatever his name is a new one. And each time it heals, it stores the healing in overhealing, and then you can heal that at a later time for the stored healing. Sounds pretty strong on mainly a Linglo or a Sania. Or Sanya. Doesn't have Bulwark in there. That's kind of a bad thing, because at some point you also have to check like what kind of matrices are in there. Doesn't have Bulwark in there. Does have all of the other tanky things in there. I do think it can be pretty strong, but if it's incredibly strong, I'm not 100% sure yet. Then we have the next one, which is definitely an interesting one, which is the Amber. And Amber is something, the moment you die, you get a Guardian Angel. And the moment you get a Guardian Angel, you get in the Ice State. But first I thought Ice State is like, oh, you're frozen, you're stunned, or something like that. No, Ice State is actually kind of strange. You get extra defense. You cannot be affected by turn meter or buffs or debuffs. And the moment you take your turn, you will get the recovery of 50% HP. So you will normally take your turn. It's not that you're stunned or anything. Only one that I kind of feel like that one is really good on is maybe like a Tiamat, because Tiamat kind of tends to kill herself for the damage she's doing. But besides that, I'm not really sure if I'm liking it that much. Like, it's kind of like a weird one. Valerian, maybe it's more on the healer side then. I'm not sure. It's kind of a weird one. I would actually maybe give it to healer, but I kind of give it over here. I would say it's maybe one of those niche that only fits very specific characters, but might be really strong on this 1 or 2 characters like a Linglo. It might be really good on the Valerian, might be really good, but not 100% sure yet. Then we move on to Revelation, and Revelation is going to be Victor. It could be an option as well, yeah, because he like the units that kind of kill themselves kind of style. But Revelation is one of those that I would say is very good on multi-hitting damage dealers. So Victor skill 1, multiple hitting. Rosa, definitely multi-hitting, very strong on Rosa. But it's not as strong on, for example, the Thing or something. So for that reason, I would say it is definitely good. Is it better than the Twilight Knight? Yeah, it's definitely better than the Twilight Knight, but it's better on the specific multi-hitters. Leon multi-hitter? Yes and no. Leon is a multi-hitter mainly, or not on the skill 3. Whereas Rosa, skill 1, skill 3, everything is like multi-hitting, right? At least, pretty sure. Yeah, because you have the follow-up and stuff. So I would say it's mainly one for Rosa, maybe okayish on Victor. But I would say that this thing is very specific to Rosa. And I think Rosa would do an insane amount of damage with that. Then we have the Jackal Guard. And Jackal Guard is the upgraded version of, like, you can see that by the stats. Does a good amount of damage, like the 4200. That's an insane amount of damage, which, if we compare this, like, it's 3 turn in here, 25 in there, 4.2k and 250. If we go back to the Black Flag, it's a 3, it is a 140 and a 16. So if you're already liking your Black Flag, can you imagine how much you're gonna be liking your Jackal Guard? That thing is absolutely freaking busted and instantly goes all the way to the left over here. That thing is so freaking good. Talking about not so good, Lighthouse. I tried this one a few times. This was in the first beta that I played already as well. Not a big fan. Like, no, I didn't really see the potential of it. I think I'm gonna place it as the worst of the Mythics. I'm not a big fan of Lighthouse. Maybe some other people were actually using it, but I was not a big fan on that one at all. And definitely you're allowed to disagree on those, over any of those picks. Count. Count is also, I mentioned it before with Crossroads. I'm not a big fan of Count. Legit, I would rather put Twilight Knight than Count. I really feel like that Count is one of those things, like, sure, you get a lot of attack. Maybe a unit that is scaling super high by super high crit damage or something like that. I don't really know, but this one, I tried it on Messiah last time. No, not liking that one at all. It's just the extra attack, but the other shells for damage do so much more. Then we have Halloween, which is the upgraded version of Blizzard. But I'm kind of on the doubt of, like, okay, where does it really fit in? I think that Halloween is probably good because it can have, like, the maximum of base stats, and therefore it's better than a Star and a Black Flag. But yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of the upgraded version of Star, but it's still by chance, and I don't really like that thing by chance. Count is sick for Hellkit. That's actually a good point, but then again, Hellkit wants Codex of Magic. Like, if you're not putting Codex of Magic on Hellkit, you're inting. You're hella inting. Hoyan, Count is good on Hoyan, that is true. But Hoyan is not in the game, so we make the assumption that Hoyan is not in the game, so therefore Halloween gets there. Or the Count gets there. Next one we have the Dark Moon. Dark Moon is a pretty interesting one. That it makes the debuffs longer. It does do a good amount of damage with this 2500. It gives 50% extra accuracy to that owner's turn. The only issue I have with this one is that he plays like a debuff to make the debuff that you place longer. So it's a 1 debuff, and then you make, like, let's say you have a 2-turn armor break, you make the 2-turn armor break a 3-turn armor break. But let's say you do that on a, I had this thing on a Heinrich, which first has to strip. So he puts the debuff, you strip, and then it's still a 2-turn thing. Which I was like, yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me that much. Also, it's just single target, it's not AoE. But then again, I think if you want to get more chance to land an armor break, especially if you're doing it wrong element, this 50% that you see in here is technically the whole 50% that you have in game for the wrong element hitting. That is kind of decent though. So I would still say for a buffer, debuffer, Black Moon is not bad, but I kind of place it in here. I think it's better than Halloween, but it's definitely a interesting one right there as well. Then we have Artisan, which is just an upgraded version of Rose thing. that one is really simple. This thing is gonna give you an insane amount of shield, like 700 and 400. Those are crazy numbers. Those are really, really crazy numbers. So, yep, Artisan, definitely one of those that you're gonna put on rule. Then we have Gigabyte. And Gigabyte is also incredibly good. One thing that I do want to say with Gigabyte, Gigabyte is really good on your buffers and debuffers. But Gigabyte is also the best in slot that I have on the screen right now, in my opinion, for healers. So I should have actually made 2 pictures of Gigabyte, because I feel like Gigabyte fits in both. Wait, let me actually fix that before I show anything weird. I'm just gonna put Gigabyte in it again. Where did I have all of those pictures? Okay, I'm definitely gonna be searching for a little bit. But I do want to put Gigabyte in it a second time, just because it's that good for both. If we do this, then we do this, then we have to find them. Okay, this is definitely very small Gigabyte. Okay. We have a second Gigabyte, and I want to place Gigabyte in front of this as well. Gigabyte is one of those that is just really insane. Like, for healers and for the buffers, debuffers, you cut so many turns. Every 3 turns that the enemy takes, you will gain a shit ton of attack bar. So keep in mind, let's say that the enemy has like a setup unit, damage dealer. So setup unit moves, damage dealer moves, and then your healer moves because of Gigabyte. You heal back everything that he did, and the second damage dealer cannot clear your whole thing. GG's. Simple as that. Super strong, especially on like Linglos, Sanyas with cleanses, all of this kind of good stuff. But also, if you go for Lily or something, Lily, it's really good too. So definitely a lot of options that you can go with for that thing. Next up, we have the White Fang, which is definitely something that a lot of people are doing the Nico Nana for. And very strong as well. Does do an insane amount of damage. Does stack up multiple crit damage over a long prolonged of time. So definitely one of those where I would say a Twilight Knight in a like insta-kill thing might be Twilight Knight, might actually legit be stronger than White Fang. But if you have a longer fight, White Fang is way better. But in a one-turn fight, Twilight Knight might outdamage this actually. But I'm going to put this all the way up top because this one is just for Rosa, whereas Twilight Knight can be used on pretty much any damage dealer there is. Any damage dealer you name, your The Thing, your Victor, your Leon, your even on Rosa you could still use this. Like any of those, Twilight Knight is your guy. You can definitely use that. It's definitely good. Moving on, next we have the strongest one in game, which is the Codex of Magic. Mostly placed on buffers or debuffers, but this thing is absolutely god tier. That's like if this thing is somewhere over here, like not gonna lie. You want a lot of those. Why is Codex of Magic that good? Well, any skill you use will not go on cooldown. You can be using that skill again. What does that mean? Well, let's say you have a Heinrich, you do skill 3 next rotation, you can still do skill 3 again. Let's say you go for the shield of a Hell Kit, you use the shield, they finally break the shield or they dispel it, you just do the shield again. It's absolutely freaking insane. That's just one of the best shields in game, or one of the best shells in games, because there's so many good units that do want this. You could easily build 5 or 6 of those, and you still probably want to build more. It's just absolutely really strong. It mostly fits for the buffers and debuffers. You could put it on a healer, but it's not really the craziest of healers. But what's also super strong is that you can make the combination of Swift Rush plus Bulwark. So you can put this towards a speed contesting unit with immunity as well. So besides the point where it's the best unit or like the best thing by itself, it's a very long cooldown, but besides the point on that, it also has very good on the side stats. Plus on the last one you have the Swift Smite or Swift Raid, which this thing is all for speed contesting, doing skills multiple times. If you put this to Marvel, like imagine Marvel skill 3. They finally almost take a turn, Marvel skill 3. That's just insane, man. It's absolutely insane. So yeah, Codex of Magic on that one. Next one, we have the Alicorn. Mostly placed on healers. Could place it on some other units as well. I've seen some people use it on a Tiamat, for example, but technically kind of is a healer. Alicorn is really strong as well. You can place it on buffers, debuffers as well, but it's not as crazy good. But it's mainly like, hey, you got stunned, you cleanse off the stun, and you can start providing either healing or more cleanses or anything like that. Alicorn is definitely really, really darn good. That's gonna get nerfed. Well, actually, the thing with Codex of Magic, let me explain this one. You have the Lily skill 3, which resets cooldowns, but also resetted shells. So what you could do is you could go for a Lily skill 2 onto a Marvel, for example, do Marvel skill 3, then have a Codex of Magic to do Marvel skill 3 again. Then you have the skill 3 from a Lily to reset the cooldowns, but also reset the Codex of Magic. And therefore you can do your third Marvel skill 3. But then if Marvel takes another turn, you could do a fourth Marvel skill 3. Because of Lily. So now it's nerfed to the point where you reset the skills, but you don't reset also the Codex of Magic. So you can only do 3 skill 3s. Ah, too bad. But you get the idea. Codex of Magic, freaking busted. Alicorn, really strong as well. Definitely one of those better for the healers out there. Next up, we have the Golden Lion. Personally, I'm not a Golden Lion fan, The only thing that I can really think of where I would like to put the Golden Lion, which is pretty much you do more damage, sure, and a little bit more accuracy, sure. The only one that I can kind of think of that fits for him is a Gray. And besides that, I don't really see the value where I would put a Golden Lion on a damage dealer, in my opinion. So I think Golden Lion is legit worse than a Twilight Knight. Only on Gray, I would say is like, yo, this actually makes sense. But besides Gray, I would not put a Golden Lion in anything. At least I cannot think of anything right now. Then we have the Law of Silence, which is definitely an interesting one. In my opinion, is one of those that fits really good on the Messiah. And the reason that it fits on the Messiah is that you get increased resistance. You also cannot be targeted. And that is really strong as well, because this is really one of those where your main damage dealer cannot be targeted by the enemy specific, but they can be focused in a way where they do AoE hits. So for that reason, and then you also take reduced damage from that. That is definitely a really strong one. You get a little bit of increased attack as well. It's insane on Rose as well. Yeah, I think silent over the Law of Silence is definitely a really strong one. Only issue I have with this one, it doesn't have Bulwark in there. So you can get pushback, you can get stunned, and you can get all of those things. If you had the chance where you also put Bulwark on here, then you would have also had the chance to simply not get touched all too much. So, but I would say Law of Silence is definitely a strong one, and I do want to give him credit for that. So I would say PvP-wise, number one. PvE-wise, not worth it. So I would say have low attack too. Yeah, like he's missing a little bit of things here and there. So I would still say most damage dealers will probably end up at a White Fang. But if you're really specific for PvP, then he might be interesting for you. Dina, good on Golden Lion. Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. But then again, on Dina, I would prefer Codex of Magic, because what's better than what, like an armor breaking your first turn? An armor breaking your second turn. And that's also Codex of Magic. Let's say that you're farming Doki Doki. You have a Codex of Magic on your AoE CC. Then you have a Codex of Magic on your AoE armor break. Then you have a Codex of Magic on your AoE attack buffer. Then you have your Codex of Magic on your Romocha that kills the whole thing. Oh wait, Romocha doesn't need that because she gets cooldown reduced anyways. But then you go in the second wave, because Romocha just one-shotted your whole wave. Codex of Magic on everything makes it that you can do the whole rotation twice, and therefore the Romocha can kill the whole team twice. Freaking insane. But yeah, the Law of Silence I put over here in the DPS thing. And then we have one more, which is Supernova, which is the upgrade of one that we have seen a bunch of times. Your healing gets improved. If you heal something below a certain percent HP, you get the healing over time. Big issue I have with this one is that a lot of healers are kind of overstacking heal regardless already anyways. So I would say that Supernova gets the 4th spot for the healer for me. And I would say that the Vertissimo is probably more interesting because Linglo is mostly overhealing. This thing will 100% make you overheal. So the overhealing is better, but Alicorn and Gigabyte are probably better in the first place. So that is all of the shells placed in my opinion. Once again, you're very free to disagree, but I think that these are about like the fair statements of where I would place them. Once again, I'm not too sure about this one. It might be more of a niche thing that can be good here and there, that is maybe even better than this. I'm not really sure about that. I'm also not too sure about the Halloween, because it's kind of weird where the start just feels straight up better where it's not by chance. But then again, the ones that you definitely want to be focusing on are the Codex of Magic, the Jackal Guard, this one for Rahul, the Gigabyte, Alicorns, and then a bunch of these, and maybe some of these too as well. So those are the most shells that you're aiming on for the late game. And that is all for the shell guide plus tier list. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm not going away on the stream just yet, but just saying goodbye to the YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Like this video, you know where to find me on either Twitch or YouTube while streaming. See you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.